Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics back with the Pint Size Table Runner, and this time it's for June. If you have just found this video on YouTube, this is a series we started back a couple months ago now with our February one, and we just keep progressing through. With each time we get to do something real fun with a different block and then applique on both ends. So we're having a lot of fun, and of course June is June berries. I have that tradition with my family of going up to Green Bluff, and we pick those June berries that are so wonderful. It's really the start of summer. So really fun. Of course, the free download, you can grab that and sew from home. If you want to grab our kit here with these adorable fabrics and all the pre-fused laser cut applique, there's a lot more of the applique this time and really intricate shapes. I think that adds a lot of value to getting that kit already done for you. You can just peel the paper backing off and iron down and start stitching around with the 5-piece thread set this time. And of course, that'll come with your backing, your binding, and you'll get your pattern and diagrams in that kit. And we're trying to keep the price really affordable. And isn't that fun to be able to be doing a different type of piecing block each month? So again, if you want to just be sewing from home, you can do that. Free download for a limited time. Be sure to grab that, and let's jump in. The log cabin block is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the most classic blocks in quilting. Been around longer than I've been on earth. It's very endearing I think for that reason. So our blocks, just like before, are ending up at 6.5 inches and sew into the project at 6. Our download is going to guide us right away into getting some precise cuts. I want to emphasize this one in particular with the log cabin, because the accuracy of the block starts off with you cutting it accurately, cutting each one of those pieces very accurately. So that's again taking us back to the sizing, good pressing, get the fresh blade, and make some very precise cuts. This is one of Creative Grid's newest rulers. It's a 1.5 inch and by 6.5. And the reason it's ideal for this project is you are cutting your strips to 1.5 inches wide, with your largest strip being 6.5, and of course of varying lengths all along. So we found this to be incredibly valuable cutting out our project. What's really fun too is it really is going to really zero in on our accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. For that reason, I was looking for some assistance. I found it. It's called a Seam Guides. I have it on my machine. We're going to use that together. You're going to see me use that. And this has got an adhesive back that will not leave any residue on your machine, and you're lining that up to get your scant 1/4 inch. I've moved it around just a bit. I've taken a measurement off of my other Creative Grid, and I'm right there at just a breath under 1/4 inch. So we're going to use that today. We have everything cut out, and we're going to start with our center. Now let's take a look at our pattern real quick. So easy. Just your job, now that you've got everything perfectly cut, your job is to press away from the center every single time, but more importantly, you're sewing a 1/4 inch seam every time, and do not trim. Do not trim. If you cut accurately, you will never trim this block. It's not one of those oversized things and you trim up. Nope. You're cutting this exactly to size, and if you end up having to trim, that's wrong. Seam rip, okay? Center square, first piece, right side together. Of course, if you feel compelled to pin. If you're like, nope, I got it, that's fine. Sometimes with the shorter lengths, I don't worry about pinning. Here's my seam guide, and my job is to press, really kind of be right at that seam guide, not short of, not long, but right following that guide, and it's going to help me get that exact 1/4 inch seam. Here we go. And we are going to press away. Now that we have this, you're just going to build this thing in a counterclockwise rotation the whole time. So as we lay this here, this piece needs to fit perfectly. If this doesn't, one of two things happen. This is either cut the wrong size. You take a measurement check. That should be measuring at this point at 3.5 inches, and it is. If that's measuring at 3.5 and this is either longer or shorter, that seam allowance is off. But we see that it fits, all right? So we'll place that right side together, and if we want to, I'm not going to sew that from this side because my presser foot's going to want to roll that back. I'm going to flip this over, sewing it from this side because that seam allowance is already moving in that direction. And I think I will go ahead and put a pin in there. And again, we're going to use that seam guide to help us really dial in that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, one thing that can happen with log cabin blocks, I have done this. Of course I've done every mistake that's been possible in quilting. I've been there at least once. What can happen right now when you lay this down? This is our next piece. Notice it could fit anywhere around this at this point. And that is very easy to get them off. If you're only making a single log cabin block, no problem. But when you want them to be in a certain orientation, it's a problem. If you start making each log cabin have the layers on the wrong side. So keep referring to this diagram because it's very easy to get backwards in this. So this goes here, right side together. And we just keep building that out. Keep pressing away, keep pressing away. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to put all of these on and get everything where my block is completely in this orientation, and then we'll move on to the rest of our project. Wow, so far I'm a big believer in this. Today is literally the first time I've used these seam guides. I'm just hearing more and more, and that is one of the biggest areas where all of us have this not as consistent as we would like. I would say not, okay, maybe not all, most. I'm in the crowd of that 1/4 inch seam allowance not always being as consistent as we would like. So I love having these aids, very affordable, and I think that pack comes with 6 of those. Again, fusible on the back, and it helps you nail that. Let's look at our block here. And I mean, this is right on the mark at 6.5. I love that. I love that it just helps me get I'm not kind of wavering like I tend to do. You can see from the back here, things look very straight. So of course, make 4 of those blocks, again, being careful that each time you put that next kind of log on, I guess you'd call it log cabin, that you are putting that on the correct side. So 4 of those. And you guys have noticed the last couple months, I can't get away from that adorable little sashing that I tend to grab for, because you need to create a little bit of separation between the blocks. Those are cut 1 by 6.5. Another, again, great mission for this. We would now just be using that solid line, not coming all the way to the edge. And you'll cut 4 of those and sewing those, and you're always going to be pressing to your sashing. So you'll assemble that with your cute little, that's more of this fabric here, right there in the middle of the cornerstone. So you've got your patchwork assembled. Then we get to move on to our applique. And there's something I want to point out to you about the applique this time. Let me just move this out of the way for the moment. I mentioned there's more going on with the applique on this one than some of the other ones. We couldn't resist having the, of course, the blossoms that are one of the, I think, a really pretty aspect of strawberries as they kind of bloom for a good period of time, at least in my garden. They tend to kind of do that all summer long. So let's take a look at that. Most of the time we put all the applique down and then start stitching. But in this case, as we kind of zoom in on looking at this, we found it to be a lot simpler. Let's look at this one in particular. It was simpler to put down our strawberries and our leaves and stitch around those shapes and then go back and do the flowers. So we talk about that in the pattern, but I just wanted to mention that to you because otherwise you're stopping here and it's kind of an awkward kind of a place to stop, and it makes it just more time consuming. So just a recommendation, of course, do as you prefer. We'll grab out our light box, and we have, of course, our assembly diagram. That'll be in, of course, 2 pieces if you're downloading that from home, but it'll be in one continuous piece in your kit if you're choosing to get that kit. And of course, we mentioned the prefused lacer cut. Let's just look and see. This is where we're headed. Really, really fun. And this collection, by the way, Timeless Treasures, has been hugely, hugely popular. So let's just grab out all of our pieces. You can see there's a lot going on right here. Nobody really wants to trace and cut all that out, I don't think. We have our little centers as well. I'm going to get that heat. We've talked about this in previous months. Just a friendly reminder that, when we're piecing, we want to have that good solid press. We've got that iron on the full hot. But now when we start to be doing our fusible, we need to dial that back, let your iron cool down to a medium setting. And that way we're not overstressing the fusible webbing that's on the back of our shapes. So just a reminder to release this. Sometimes people struggle with that, especially with smaller shapes. Just give that a good crease. Don't be shy about harming your fabric. That's not going to happen. It just allows that to release, and now you're able to much more readily be able to work with your shapes. I'm going to move that out of the way. So let's just look at our, obviously this is very simple, 1 and 2, but looking at that here, 3, 4, I would pre-assemble. You don't even really necessarily need to pre-assemble your flowers because it's obvious. The circle's going in the center. I would just pre-assemble those leaves and your strawberries, and that's a unit. And the same over here. And then you can just go and put all of that. In fact, let's just build it together. Let's just do this together versus me describing it to you. How about we just do that? Hopefully that's not too bright on the overhead camera. This is the applique mat. It comes in 2 sizes. This is the smaller size, and there's a tackiness to it. If you've watched the previous months, you've seen that tackiness, which is a really nice feature. Because I have to transfer this. I cannot iron on the light box. I'm embarrassed to tell you, one day I got so excited, I forgot. Boy, that was a quick reminder though. I realized it within a matter of a couple seconds, but I don't even want to think about what my light box would have looked like if I had kept that on there much longer. So piece 3 and 4 are going to go down here. like that. And then we're going to have what come in with our strawberries. I can see those barely have contact with each other. Sometimes, let's talk about that. Let's look at something. Do you see how this strawberry just barely has contact right there with that leaf? Just be extra careful when you peel this away once it cools down, because there's not a lot connecting them. If they separate, that's not a big deal. When we get ready to lay this on the background, and we will together, you just simply put it back down. All right, you know what? Let's just do the other side as well. You might as well do that because we can. We have enough space on our applique mat to do that. All right, and we're going to put our flowers and our centers off to the side for the moment. There we go. Another thing you might consider is, well, you could even just put applique down your greenery to the background and just stitch around all of that. Then bring in your strawberries. In fact, they may have even wrote the pattern that way since we made the project, because we kind of discover things in the journey of making it. Let me just turn that off a little bit bright. It's just easier, obviously, to trace around a shape when there's nothing disrupting that. Just some ideas, food for thought. You're going to, of course, applique that down in whatever sequence you want. But sometimes we just discovered that does save time, laying the shapes down, stitching all around it, and you're not, even if we did that, notice you're not seeing any of the green showing through. You're not seeing any stitching. Let's see if we did do that. Looks like we did. Let's look at that from the back. Very much sewing around individual shapes as they went down. So that's another possibility for you if you want to do it that way. We want to let that cool down. In fact, and then what we can do here, kind of get these ready to go while that's cooling. And we'll get our, we'll just use this as a visual reference here. Let's get our piece that's going to come across the top, put our scallop in. I love that one with the cute little strawberries. We don't need an applique mat for that. We can just bring that over. It's obvious where that fits. There's no other place for it to fit. Okay. Now we can peel this away, and just like we've seen in previous months, that's a unit now. Isn't that awesome to be able to, and I can even see through that with the, just seeing through it because of this light colored background. I don't even need to turn that on. And now this one. Amazing technology. Just like that. Let's just bring that over. I would definitely be stitching around those now. And then as far as the flowers, you know, we don't even really need to take that back. It's kind of more visual wherever you want them to be. Let's say you want them there. And then of course you're just going to be placing those into position. Hey, we're this close, let's just do this. It's fun. I like them like that. That's where I'm like, I'm not going to worry about what they look like on the diagram. They're blossoms, right? They can have, I might move that one a little bit so they're not overlapping. But that's where you can take your creative liberty and do whatever you want with that. And of course, now you're going to be using your white thread and your yellow thread to get those stitched down. And you are done with your applique. And of course, you're repeating that. You'd be probably making those simultaneously, certainly stitching down. And once you have the green thread loaded in, of course, you're going to sew all the green down and then change your thread. Just like we've done before, your applique ends will be sewn onto your patchwork. And depending on where your seam wants to press, it may want to press toward this unit here or press down. Your choice on that. And then we came in with our batting, our backing, and we did some quilting on that. What Bethany did here, she has the diagonal quilting, and I like how she kind of came in here and kind of accentuated that. I think she used the edge of her presser foot and just kind of sewed a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The design is so spectacular, we don't need to get over the top with the quilting. What could be on deck for a Pint Size Table Runner for July? Well, we are a very important holidays coming up here in the United States. You can imagine a patriotic theme is headed your way. I have that designed already. I can't wait to show you that block. Really a lot of fun. Hopefully you're enjoying the Pint Size Table Runner. We love to get your feedback. Thanks for giving me part of your day, and I'll see you next month for the Pint Size Table Runner for July.